From EPAWA Weather Consulting, headquartered in Worth Whitehall, Pennsylvania, this is Weather Weeklies, an informative video of the ins and outs of weather that affect you most in the EPAWA coverage area. The thoughts and opinions expressed in this video are those of the forecaster alone and may not reflect those of the staff of EPAWA Weather Consulting LLC as a whole, nor its constituents. Now, without further ado, here is meteorologist Bobby Martrich with Weather Weeklies.
Good morning to you. It is Sunday, November 17th. This is another edition of Weather Weeklies for the third week of the season. This has been going on for 3 weeks now. Some of you are seeing it for the first time, and others of you are tuning in every single week to see what changes we have on the horizon. And that's kind of what we're going to be doing here over the next couple of weeks. We said that from the onset of our winter programs, which began November 1st. First Weather Weeklies was November 3rd. We're kind of just seeing where we are and where we're going, and we're going to start off with that each and every week. So far, the snowfall is not here yet. Okay, we haven't had that yet. We're not really expecting too much to this point. Scranton and Wilkes-Barre usually gets some lake effect snow. You might start getting into that late this week with a closed upper level low and surface low moving through the region. We're going to get some much needed rain Wednesday night into Thursday morning, and then in the wake of that, you could have some lake effect snow showers that could affect especially these regions up here. North Central, Northeast PA, especially the mountainous regions. So we'll get into that in our local forecast on the website and the daily videos that I do. But I just wanted to show you where we are year to date. Obviously nothing yet, but this is where we're expected to be at this point. Not much. And this is taking a 30-year average of snowfall to this point over the last 30 years. So it's not really, suggesting that you should have snow necessarily. You might have 1 or 2 years in there where you got an early snowfall, and it skews the numbers a little bit. That's where you get these numbers and these averages from, okay? Average snowfall in the month of November, though, is not much either. As you see in the left-hand column here, we're generally under an inch at most locations until you get to the Scranton-Wilkes-Barre area, which is expected to have a little over 3 inches total this month. That's what normal is. Now, we do have November projected below average. That is, there has been a long-range outlook for several weeks, and that's not changing. There is an opportunity to see your first flakes, again, at the end of this week, maybe from the Friday, Saturday time frame. We'll check that out here in the daily forecast videos. But as we get into December, we step up that number here. These are important to keep in the back of your mind. Now, I know not everyone that's watching this is exactly in any of these locations, and you're probably not, okay? But if you just pick the one that's closest to you and you get a general idea of what average snowfall is for your area. These ones listed are the major climate sites. That's where we're using them, and they keep snowfall records. A town in between doesn't keep snowfall records, so I can't give you what climatology is. We have to go through the major climate stations. That's why we're listing these. But this is what normal is at those locations. If you are close to there, like instead of Allentown, maybe you're in Macungie. Okay, just use Allentown. Close enough, okay? So it gives you a general idea of what average snowfall is in December. So it does certainly pick up. Now, each week we're going through the current ENSO, which is your sea surface temperatures in the equatorial Pacific, and that's what we're looking at. These are the regions out here in between about 160 degrees east and 90 degrees west. That's what we're paying attention to. This is what determines either an El Nino, a La Nina, or ENSO neutral, which we are currently in. I'm starting to hear people tell me, and this is coming from some credible, or I thought credible, meteorologists on Twitter saying we are in a La Nina state right now. We are not in a La Nina state right now. If somebody's telling you that, they're full of nonsense, and you just unfollow them or tell them about themselves, because there's no La Nina right now. This is not a La Nina. These numbers here are not a La Nina. You need to be at negative 0.5 degrees Celsius ONI as a composite average for all the Nino regions, and we are not there. The average of all this, if you average this all together, that's negative 0.1 degrees Celsius. That is not negative 0.5, which is the threshold for a La Nina, negative 0.5 or greater. So it's not there, and actually the most recent update, this is done every single Monday by the CPC, and so it'll come out again tomorrow morning. So this is 6 days old. So if you could look at current data to see the daily updates with this, and if anything, it got even slightly warmer. Okay, it's not, especially in the Nino 1 and 2 region here, which is now near average temperatures at zero, okay, net zero. So these numbers are not changing to a La Nina next week. The Climate Prediction Center said that there was a 60% chance that a La Nina would occur, or conditions would be present anytime between September and November. Well, here we are on the 17th, and I'm telling you right now, we are not close, and we're probably not going to make it this month. Not going to make it, based on the continued bombardment of the westerly wind bursts in the tropics that have kept the La Nina from forming. So we're not there, and I don't think we're going to get there. I really don't. That's my personal opinion. Could we get there? Yes, it's possible. And if we do, it's going to be by the skin of its teeth that we get to La Nina. And it's going to be bare minimum. But right now, we are not. We're still solidly in an ENSO neutral. So that changes the ball game a little bit for these winter outlooks that came out. And we talked about this in the last couple of weeks, too. You know, a lot of them are based on the fact that that La Nina was going to form. Well, if La Nina doesn't form and you're still in an ENSO neutral, that's going to move the goalposts a little bit. That means a different thing, and depending what you know, tropical forcing phases you're in. You know, if you're an ENSO neutral, that can go either way. It really can, because there's a lot of variability in ENSO neutral years, and we showed you this here a couple weeks ago. If I can get this graphic back, this is Allentown, Pennsylvania. Seen a season snowfall for the last 30 years. The ones that have dots here are all ENSO neutrals here. Look at all the variability. It's either boom or bust, right? There's a few that are like just around average, right? Call 3 of those. But you got a couple bust years here, and you got a couple boom years here. So it really is an ENSO neutral. Everybody thinks that's like the Mecca, or it's really not. It can go either way. And it just depends on, there's other climate factors driving the pattern. It could be the Madden-Julian oscillation. It could be the EPO, the AO, the NAO. I'll get into all that in a second. But I mean, that is not cut and dry for anything. But the winter outlooks that were written were based on the fact that the premise that we would be in a La Nina. We might not be there. We really might not get there. And I'm starting to be I've been skeptical, but I'm even more skeptical that we even get there. Okay, here's the La Nina regions right here. This is what we're talking about. These areas right in here. Or the ENSO regions, I should say. That is not a La Nina right now, but there are some. The coolest waters are out here in Nino. They see the scale that matches. I have this lined up exactly where these areas are. Nino 3 is generally the coolest region we have right now. 3 and 3.4, which is right. 3.4 goes right in here, and the red area is Nino 3. Nino 1 and 2 did warm here over the past week. Again, like I said, it's not as anomalously cool as it was last week. So there's some changes there as well. And always the Nino 4 region out here in the western part out here has always been the warmest of those regions. So and it still is. Okay, so that's the Nino 4s out here. Okay, you see the temperatures are very slightly above average in that as a composite average, but you know, the coldest is going to be in here. That's your coldest region, but it's still not in La Nina territory. So we're not in La Nina. If somebody's telling you that, they're full of nonsense, and you just just ignore them. Okay. Could we get there? It's possible, and this is still the October update. We're waiting on the November update, which I should have in the next week. But the dynamical average models are showing that yes, it will be in a weak La Nina, but I kind of already expected it to be there by now. So I'm kind of leaning against that. And the statistical guidance, which is the green line, never got it into a La Nina. Okay, here's a different projection. This is from the Australian model. This is BOMM. This is the Australian model, and this is where we are right now. We're in November. We're here, right? And that's about where the sea surface temperatures composite average for the 3.4 region is. And I can show you any of the regions. They're all doing the same thing and the same trend here. Okay, it's not getting much cooler, if at all. And then it's as we head toward the second half of winter, it actually rises to neutral or actually a positive neutral here. So, we're staying in neutral this whole time. Neutral, they're showing a neutral as a plus or minus 8 degrees Celsius. We define it here in the U.S. as plus or minus 5, but still, you're still in the ENSO neutral this entire scale here. And if anything, it's not going to get much cooler according to this projection. It's actually going to start leveling out here in January and then heading northward. Is there a possibility you could barely reach it in January? Sure. I just don't think it's going to be anytime soon. And I don't think we're going to be dealing with La Nina conditions. So we have to assume, at least I'm assuming, that it's going to be an ENSO neutral. So if I'm writing an outlook, which we don't do winter outlooks because it's case in point, this is why it's a waste of time. If it wouldn't be based on that. It would be a lot of variability. It would be, a lot of different things can happen. It's going to depend on other factors like the Madden-Julian oscillation, which is your tropical forcing and best convection in these regions here. They all have different phases. This is generally where they are. And it's not exact, but it's pretty close and gives you an idea. There's been a warm pool that's been sitting. Normally it's sitting over in this area right here during a La Nina. Because we're not in a La Nina, this warm pool has extended further east, and it's actually sitting out here in these regions. Okay, now these are a little bit better regions for us in winter if you're a snow lover. Maybe not 6 as much, but when you get to 7 and 8, certainly, depending on time of year and again what background state you're in. Right now, the projection that we're sitting here right now in phase 2. It's going to quickly move through the Indian Ocean, a very weak forcing there, but then it moves into phase 4, 5 in the maritime continent and continues into phase 6 and maybe getting into phase 7 by the time we get to mid-December. So it's continuing in this path like this, right? And CFS is doing generally the same idea, CFS V2, same general idea. But here's a good example, and this is what I used last week in an example. I'm going to do it again for those who didn't see it. If you are in a phase 5 in a La Nina, it's not the best pattern. You got milder temperatures here over the northeast United States. It's not a good pattern for cold and snow. If you're in phase 5 in ENSO neutral, different story. So if you look at longer range projections of cooler temperatures, this is largely why. Okay, people have already asked me that when I did long range on Friday. They're like, well, why do you have colder in December, or near average temperature in December and near average snowfall? And I'm seeing other sources saying it's going to be warm and torchy. I don't think so. I really don't see that, because it's, again, we're staying in an ENSO neutral. We're not in a La Nina. So if you're assuming it's going to be in a La Nina, then sure, maybe you might be right. I don't think so. I don't think it is. So that's why our projections are different, and that's why everybody has their own proprietary outlooks. This is our outlook. You don't have to believe what I'm telling you, but just bookmark it and come back to it. So if December is not looking warm and torchy and 70 degrees on Christmas, all that's nonsense, you can come back and say, hey, you told me so, and here we are. So when you're in an ENSO neutral, more than any other pattern, there's a lot of variability. It's going to be based on other factors like the East Pacific Oscillation. We talked about this last week, which is ridging into the Gulf of Alaska that can allow cold air to spill down in the eastern 2/3 of the United States. So you get that cold bleeding in. This is a lot of what ran the pattern in 2013, 2014, which was also a La Nina, also a winter that didn't look so great coming in because you had... it really wasn't, the people weren't really optimistic that year of having a big year, and it turned out to be a great year, okay? And because the EPO was driving the pattern that year. And they see this up here, the colder temperatures in the Gulf of Alaska. People are saying, well, it's cooler up here. Negative PDO, you're probably not going to get a negative EPO this year. Well, I'll tell you right now, that even with these cold, this is observed, right? Observed sea surface temperatures up there. You are getting ridging in Alaska, and the EPO is currently tanking. And in large part why you're going to have cooler than average temperatures at times through the remainder of November, okay? It's not going to really settle in until we get to the end of the period, once we get toward, the very tail end of the month, where it just kind of settles in and stays. But this is happening when the sea surface temperatures are colder than average, and you were told that that's not going to be conducive for a negative EPO this year. Well, here we are. Is this a sign of things to come? We don't know yet. This is a up to 2 weeks variability change. I know there's models that go longer than that, but you can only take these teleconnections seriously up to about 10 to 14 days. After that, they get a little crazy, right? So at least for the next couple of weeks here, you're seeing the EPO negative. So that invites colder air in, and this is not something that was foreseen a long time ago by many, and many have missed it. The North Atlantic Oscillation and the blocking in Greenland, that is another thing that could be an intraseasonal pattern that could change things in a shorter-term basis. That might not be a long-term pattern. As a matter of fact, this year being in an ENSO neutral, I think you're going to have a lot of these ups and downs. We might have a really like a milder week where it's in the 40s and to near 50. And the next week it's cold and it's snowing, and it's back and forth. I don't think it's one of those years that we have a locked-in pattern that's going to stay for months and months. It's not like that. Just because that's what you have in an ENSO neutral, you have a lot of variability, and a lot is going to be depending on what Madden-Julian oscillation cycle we're in at that time. What's the background state prior to these, and what do they mean, right? Are we looking like this, or are we looking like this in phase 5, right? It's a La Nina versus an ENSO neutral. So there's a lot of different things there, but I'm telling you, I'm leaning against the La Nina, and if it does in fact happen, it's going to be barely so, and it probably would be closer to January, I think, but we'll see. I'm not saying that with very high confidence, because you can't go very high confidence in something like that. But it's just my gut feeling, my personal feeling is we probably don't even see it. We don't even get to La Nina, okay? So looking at the temperature periods in the month of December, this is the European Extended, which used to be called the Weather Weeklies. Used to be called the European Weeklies, right? So this is taking the entire month of December, and this is the projected temperatures here. We are actually, it shows near to slightly below average for the month. Now, we have projected officially in our long range outlook a near average month. If you're near average, it's cold enough to support snow, especially when you get to like mid-month or later, right? So that's for the month as a whole here, showing that temperatures will be near to slightly below average. So you're giving yourself a chance for snow when you have temperatures cooperate. That's the first step. If you have temperatures that are warm, you're gonna have to thread the needle and do a lot of like hoping. When it's like this, it's not as hard or as difficult, okay, to get snow. And here's what the next 2 weeks looks like before I get to the whole December scope thing. This is Allentown, Lehigh Valley International Airport. It's the centermost point in our coverage area. That's why I'm using it as an example. The average temperature here at this location today, Sunday, November 17th, is 53. And December 1st, it is 48. That's the average high at that location. You can see where the temperatures are in relation to that. We're going to be above average, or at least slightly above average. Or I have a very nice day today, by the way. After that point, we start doing these ups and down things where we're on either side of average, right? And then we get to the end of this period here, or toward the end of the month, where we are slightly below average. Now, it's not going to be crazy below average, but it's still slightly below nevertheless. And this idea is shared by the GFS ensemble also. This is the European ensemble, that you have this general downward, I mean, your warm shots, so to speak, are less impactful with time. So they keep going on this downward slope here is basically what we're doing, okay? And we're taking that transition into the winter months. We show what temperatures were for the month of December on the European extended ensemble. This is what it has for snowfall. And if you look at what averages are, that average chart I showed you for the month of November, it's pretty close to this. It's expecting near average. Actually, this is actually showing a little bit slightly above, but it is an ensemble mean, so we'll keep our projections that we have on our website for the long range at near average for now, unless we see something change. And as far as storm signals, we don't have a clear storm signal yet. Okay, so remember, it's only November 17th, it's the middle of November. We don't think that you have a better chance when you see how you have some little stuff here, little minor stuff. And this is Scranton Wilkes-Barre ahead of time, but it's not really until you get into the middle of December, second and third weeks of December, you start see these really pick up, and on most of the ensembles. Okay, so if you're going to put a signal, if I was going to put a signal, and again, it's 4 weeks out. We're not doing signals 4 weeks out, right? We'll wait till we get a little closer here in the 2-3 week time frame. So in the next week or two, we might be putting a winter storm signal up here in the second week of December or thereabout, maybe closer to mid-month. So we're going to continue to monitor that, but right now there's nothing concrete, but there is definitely a signal here that there could be something, because you're seeing these pop up pretty greatly once we get into that second and third week of December. I think that's our first legitimate shot. Could you get things before that? Like I said, at the end of the week, you're going to have some snow showers in some areas, especially in elevations, lake effect stuff. Yes. Okay. Could you get a minor system roll through here somewhere in the early part of December or late November? Sure, of course. But I think the concentration is when we start getting a little more active is going to be second and third weeks of December. So we're going to continue to monitor that. No concrete storm signal yet, but we're getting close. So My Pocket Meteorologist started on November 1st. If you're not signed up for the text alerts or the premium form, now's a good time to do so. You can do so here at this link, which is on our website. You see a big, if you go to the homepage of our website, it has a big winter is coming banner. You click on that, it'll take you right to the NPM pages. It'll take you to the text alerts that you can get for your own county throughout the winter months at one low price for one fixed rate price for the entire month, and for the entire season. I'm sorry. And then the premium form is where we talk about all the winter storms exclusively. We don't do that publicly. We do everything behind closed doors there, and do model analysis ahead of storms, and it's pretty comprehensive. For those that are subscribed to it, they can attest to that. These are the counties that we cover within our coverage area, and no, we cannot expand past this. This is our set. This is again, we're a weather consulting firm. We're not a Facebook page. We're not. I know we have a Facebook page. We have Twitter. But we're not. We're a weather consulting firm. So this is the area that we cover. We can't expand beyond this. This is the area that we service, so we're going to continue to any of these counties that you live in. You can get these text alerts for your county. So into summarize here, so we're not going too long. The ENSO neutral state is in place currently, but when and if La Nina develops will be critical to the long-range forecast. And if that doesn't develop, that changes the goalpost a little, moves the goalpost a little bit for what's going to happen. And these winter outlooks you're looking at right now that are based on the becoming a La Nina are going to be garbage. You can crumble them up, use them for a fire starter, target practice, playing trash can paper basketball, whatever. I don't know, whatever you want to do. Print them out and, yeah, just throw them away. Milder overall November relative to average, so it is going to finish that because it was a warmer start, but there will be cooler risks that will be found over the next 2 weeks for most of that time. Okay, most of that time will be leaning cooler than average, especially as we get toward the end of the month. And again, there's no concrete signals for snow currently, at least a winter storm signal, but we are preliminarily targeting the middle of December for something like that to appear. So look for that in the next couple of weeks. Once we get past Thanksgiving, I think we might have a better idea of what's coming there. We might have a storm signal. I'm not sure about next week just yet, but it might be pretty close. Maybe the following week that we'll have something to put in there. But it's coming. I don't think we're going to be skunked this winter. It's not looking like it. But like I said, I talked about this several times here, but there's a lot of variability if we stay in an ENSO neutral. Everybody thinks it's the greatest pattern in the world. Well, that's only if all the other teleconnections cooperate. If it doesn't, you can end up with some off years. So again, this is a lot of variability. If you're putting an outlook out and you nail it this year, good luck. Best of luck to you because you're going to need it. So that is this week of Weather Weeklies for Sunday, November 17th. We're going to do the same thing again next week, just kind of see where we're at. Maybe we'll have a winter storm signal in place at that point. I don't know yet. But if we do, I'm planning on having one again next week, the 24th. The Thanksgiving holiday will have nothing to do with this or the long-range outlook that we do on the website. That'll come on time because we don't have off for Black Friday. So we will have these continue as normal going forward. See you again next week. Take care of yourself, and I will see you in the daily forecast videos throughout the week.